Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you here with us today. Also, my name is Doreen Frimpomba, and I'm dialing in from Accra, Ghana. I am Director of Internships at Madeleine, Everything Internship. Madeleine runs an amazing internship program, virtual internship program that I manage. So you find out that at the end of during Madeleine, students are able to intern with us. We have middle schoolers and high schoolers who intern with us after they have used Madeleine in some capacity. So welcome, we're glad you're here. I'll pass it on to my other colleague, Alexandra.
I am one of the curriculum and implementation specialists at Madeleine. I work with Caroline, and I am here to answer any questions. I'll be taking over the chat, so if you've got questions or having any issues while Caroline is working or demoing, please let me know, and I'm happy to help.
All right. Okay, so my name is Caroline Westfeld, and I am a newer member of the Madeleine team. My background is I have 20 years in public education, middle school and high school level. Most recently taught computer science here in Florida. We just had some rough weather, but it's all good. So the goal of the computer science curriculum was to make it easier for teachers to be able to work with computer science. So I'm going to, just for a second here, Madeleine, and some of you may be familiar with it, is a platform that allows students to organically go through the design thinking process to create apps. And I love it. I used it when I was teaching. It's scaffolded, so you can have students that are not able to code, or you can use Madeleine to code. And that's really what we're going to discuss today. We're going to just start with the very, very basics today. So there may be some things that we cover that you know already, but I just want you to see how it all kind of flows together. This effort was, based on my own experience of some of the materials I was given when I first was learning to code, or, just when I was first learning. Some of it can be overwhelming. So I tried to break it into a very manageable pieces where it's easy to understand for both the person teaching it, because I've been the teacher that was about 5 minutes ahead of the kids with the code, and also for the kids to be able to understand as they're moving through it. So we've got this one today. We're going to go through the level 1 curriculum today, and next Thursday, same time, we're going to go through the level 2 curriculum and build on what we do today with the level 1. All right, so if there's anyone here, that does not have a school subscription, I'm going to need you to set up a free trial so that you're able to go through the coding with us today. So if you'd like to, if you don't have an account, just go ahead with your phone, scan the QR code. It'll take you right to the free trial page, and you can go ahead and set up a free account. It'll give you access for 2 weeks. And Alexandra just put that in the chat as well. If you don't have access to your phone, you can go ahead, and the link is in the chat. So you're going to need that to be set up, just because we're going to be doing some hands-on coding. While that's going on, just going to ask, I know Doreen put a little bit of an icebreaker in. Let's start with this though. What was the best thing that happened or will happen to you this week? So if you would just take a second when you're done setting up your account, if you'll take a second to put that in the chat. Dinner with the husband. Oh, we don't do that anymore. We're ships in the night at our house here. Very cool, Alexandra. Very cool.
I know some of you are driving or in the classroom with
Yeah,
kids.
we understand.
But feel free to come off mute as well if you don't want to. If you can't type, you're welcome to come off mute and share.
WSJ 19577, are you in Florida? Georgia, okay. Okay, because some of the Florida schools have been closed for the last 3 days, so I thought that was why. Yeah, it is nice to get a break. It definitely is nice to get a break.
Hi, this is Takesha. I was trying to create my free trial. It's telling me that my email is already in use, so I'm assuming I already have an account.
Takesha, can you put your email address in the chat, or you can send it directly to me and I'll look into that.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Anybody else having difficulties getting signed in or?
Well, I'm just trying to get myself together. I just came on, so I'm not
No
even sure
worries.
what's happening. This is Jacqueline Johnston from New York.
Oh, okay. Millennium?
Yes.
Hey, Jackie.
Hi, Alexandra. How are you?
Hi. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good seeing you too.
Okay, Danae. All right, Danae. Okay, so Danae also has an account set up.
Caroline, I'll take care of everything. If anyone's
Okay.
having an issue, I'll take care of them. You just keep on going.
I will do. Okay, so here we go. The first thing I want to start with is this slide deck that is here right now. I know this is the not fun stuff. I do want to just hop out of the presentation for just a second, and I want to move over to the coding curriculum, because you have access to this curriculum as part of MadLearn. So when you log in for the first time, when you access the curriculum, and it is on the in your dashboard on the panel on the left, it gives you an idea of where to start. And with coding, it's not leveled by grade level. The reason being that everybody has to start at the same place. So whether you're teaching coding to HTML to a 5th grader or to a 10th grader, everybody's going to learn the same tags to start with. So it's leveled out by level 1, level 2, and level 3. So we're going to work with level 1, which is the HTML structure. Level 2 deals with CSS, some basic CSS, and a little bit more complex concepts with HTML. And then level 3 will go into some more advanced HTML, CSS, and also bring some JavaScript into it. If your students are, if they're comfortable with the level 1 things, you can start at level 2. You can use this the way you need to use it. It was designed that way. The standards alignment isn't here, and I've got examples of it is broken up. It's the CSTA standards broken up by grade level, and then by grade band. And then I've added examples of how MadLearn is meeting the standards in case your administrator is looking for something like that. So with the coding level 1 in the folder here, we've got all the resources that you need. The start here, again, goes into the levels, talks about what the students are going to know or need to know by the end of this lesson, and some concepts, some things that, how to help you teach the concepts. Some of you may be familiar with teaching computer science, some of you may not. I also created a teacher companion app. So with this, one of the things that I remember stressed me in the beginning was that students would be working on code and it was great as long as everything worked, but then there was difficulty when there was a bug. And I was just as lost as they were. So what I did do is I created a teacher companion app, and on the companion app, so in level 1, this is an unpublished link, so the students don't have access to it, but it takes you through and gives you examples of what the code should look like and answers to kind of help you along with it. So that link is included there as well. It explains also how activities can be modified and how they can be extended. A lot of times in computer science classes, you don't have, you have students that are at very different levels with very different capabilities. So there's explanations for that. And then again, with the debugging, I made sure that I was tried to give you as much information as I have from common mistakes my students made, misspellings or transposing letters. So there's a level 1 quiz. There is the more or less concept outline, which is everything that level 1 covers. It gives you the code example, and it also gives you what it will display like in the browser if that is the case. So was everybody able to log into MadLearn? Let me start with that.
For me, not yet. I'm still trying to see. I don't know if my old accounts work, or should I be using that trial account?
Your own, go ahead, Caroline.
No,
It
you go
should
ahead,
work, right?
Alexandra. I was going to say the same thing as you.
Jackie, I'm pretty sure we reactivated your old account. So if you can't try that, if you're not able to get in, if you just let me know, I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was reactivated. So, okay, the way this is designed is it's kind of built in. Everything is kind of built together in it. It starts with some background of HTML, which I'm going to go ahead and I'm sorry. It starts with some background for HTML, where it came from, and in the scheme of things, that HTML was not created that long ago. To the students who grew up with it, it always existed. But I mean, in my lifetime, and probably most of you, you've seen it come into fruition. So it's got links within. So if you wanted to know what particle collision at CERN is, you can go ahead and click on the link to that. This talks about cascading style sheets and how CSS came about. Basically, HTML was created by CERN as a way to link research documents. So scientists are very collaborative. They like the idea of sharing to improve things. So the idea was that by sharing the documents through hyperlinks, more research would be able to be accomplished. And that was in 1980. CSS was created in 1994, which is when another researcher decided that it was great to have the links, but they needed a way to make the information stand out, certain parts stand out and be more visible. So that's where the CSS came from. And then where am I going here? Okay. JavaScript is the most common scripting language. It went through a few different iterations. And JavaScript is what makes our websites fun and functional, and it makes it active. So this is a common issue, and I included it because I'm going to ask for answers in the chat. Are Google and Chrome the same thing? If you can just put your answer in the chat. Are Google and Chrome the same thing? Victor says nope. Hi, Victor. All right. Victor says no, and we're sticking with that. And Victor is actually correct. And the way this is set up is there are answers embedded. The activities are embedded. So click here for the answer. Says no, Google's not a browser, and Google's not a browser. Students see the icons, and because the colors are similar, a lot of times think that they are the same thing, and they're not. So on here, click on the icon, and if you do that, it takes you out to Google, the search engine. And if you come back, it now takes you to Google, the browser. It's important that they understand the difference between these things, because the browser is what is going to help us set up our HTML on the page. All right. So I apologize there. Sorry. Let me hop back over here.
Can you explain that one more time? Like the difference between Google and
Sure.
I guess Chrome?
Sure. So Google was created in the late 80s, well, I guess the late 90s. And Google was originally a search engine. So Google is a website that you go to search for things. Google didn't always have a browser that was attached to it. So a browser is any program that you use to get to a website. So it could be Microsoft Edge, it could be Google, it could be Firefox, Chrome rather, it could be Firefox. Opera is an open source browser that can be used. So so any of these, it's whatever application you open to get on the web, that's the browser. Google, though, is actually a search engine. So when you go to Google, if you went to google.com, you would actually get to the search engine, and that's where you would search for things. The browser is what reads the HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript and then displays it on the page. Does that make sense?
It does. I never even thought about that, but it makes perfect sense.
So the reason why it's important that they understand the difference between the two things is that the browser is what's going to structure the page. So when we're writing HTML and CSS and JavaScript, all we're doing is really just writing instructions to the browser as how we want it to be set up. A lot of times kids will get stuck with, well, how does the computer know, how does the browser know what the HTML is? I just tell them, don't worry about that right now. One of the things we'll find with coding is that it is a very detail-oriented practice. So sometimes, and I used to despise this and I've come to like love it, debugging can be, it'll make you crazy, but at the same time, when you find that missing quotation mark or the semicolon that was missing, when you find that and you fix it, it's a really good feeling. I'm just going to share that. Another thing you want to, just the idea of keeping code organized. A lot of times when students write code, it's all over the place, and I kind of try to demonstrate how to keep it organized in blocks and structured, so it makes it easier to look through, and it takes practice. So the idea is, and it's okay for a teacher. I mean, like I said, I did that. I started there and I did that, and I was with my kids going, I don't know how to fix this. And you'll figure it out and they'll figure it out and it will be okay. I'm just trying to give you some help here. All right. So again, the idea was that it was collaborative. Tim Berners-Lee, the developer of the web. These concepts covered are actually hyperlinks. So if you click on them, it'll take you to the different portions. So if you end one day and you start the next day, you can just click on the link to go to that page. So it just gives a little bit of background about the web and what it was like. I mean, this was back in the day. I'm not sure. Does anybody remember the card catalog and, going to specifically find the book that you needed and then finding the book and then actually handwriting the notes from it? And that's inconceivable to students today. It's just everything is right there. So now we have all these tools that are available to us, all these sources, and this hits the standard with how the evolution of the web has changed, what we do and how the evolution has changed how we interact with information. So I love this one. This is Google's very first, what it looked the very first time it was posted on the web on 11/14/98. And if you look at the text, it's a hyperlink. It's just a hyperlink. And it actually says might work some of the time prototype. That is much more up to date. In the lower corner here, there's a website called the Wayback Machine. And you can go to it and you can type in, like I used to always go and put in the name of my school district, and then we would go see what the website looked like when it first popped up in the late 90s, early 2000s, and what it looks like now. But that's a fun one. That link is included here. So this was 11/14, and then 2 months later, they had a little bit of CSS going on here because they had some color. So this is HTML with nothing, and it looks like this. And now we start to have CSS, which we have a little bit of style in there, not much, but just a little bit. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm just kind of giving you an overview of what you would, how you would kind of go through with the kids. At the same time, and just trying to move through this because we're moving through it, but just trying to move through it somewhat quickly. But The activities are pretty self-explanatory. They're embedded in here. So it asks them to predict why a page displays the same time every time it's opened. Is there a time it might look different? Again, the answers are here. They're embedded here. So the browser's job is to follow the HTML instructions. So the example I like to use is that just the way a skeleton structures bones into a person, the browser structures HTML into content for a website. It doesn't style it. So with a skeleton, you would be able to tell how tall someone is or maybe what bone size they have, but you wouldn't be able to tell their hair color. You wouldn't be able to tell their skin color. You wouldn't be able to tell what kind of clothes they're wearing. And it's the same thing with the HTML. So what we structure today is not going to look real pretty. But it's going to be the building blocks that we will style next time when we come back for level 2. So here's an example of HTML. So this is within our HCJ builder right here in Medlearn. Here's the code. And so I've got these code blocks, which when the browser reads it, just makes this happen. This is how it is displayed on the page because the instructions I gave over here. And there's, again, questions embedded without. See how the HTML structures the page into a heading in 4 paragraphs. Here's the heading, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. Yes, Danae, Alexandra, do you want to put a link in the chat? Danae, do you need to look at now or for later?
I've got it, Caroline.
Okay.
I'll put the scope and sequence in the chat for everybody and they can see that.
Okay. All right. We talk about syntax. So syntax is the way, words are organized and the punctuation that's used, and HTML has its own syntax. It uses angle brackets, it uses equal sign, quotation marks, and an exclamation point, and forward slash. This is where students get stuck a lot with the syntax. That a lot of time with the debugging, it's because the syntax is not correct. So some rules for debugging that we use angle brackets, the equal sign. The exclamation point in computer science means not. So anytime you see an exclamation point, it's letting you know this is not, in this case, it's not a regular tag. The exclamation point is used to say not other things in other languages, but for right now in HTML, it just means not. This is not a regular tag. It's letting the browser know. Okay, so we've got container tags. Container tags, and this is the way HTML is structured, they have an opening tag and a closing tag. And anything that goes within the tag is what you're going to see on the web page. So any guesses what H stands for in H1? Victor, thank you. Victor says heading, and he's correct.
Actually, I won't answer any more questions. I feel like I have an unfair advantage. So
okay, thank you, Victor. And then we've got the P for paragraphs. So we don't see these tags when it displays. All we see is the content that is in between the tag. Okay, so there is an open and there is a close. So these are container tags because they do have an open and closing tag. These are empty tags, and there's not a lot of them, but there are a few. They don't have a closing tag because the tag itself is the element. So let's see if we can make that make some sense. A line break takes text and breaks it onto the next line. So we'll be using line breaks in a minute. So in this case, in the code, in the HTML, there's a line break after the word tables, and it takes forms and puts it onto the next line. And it does the same thing after forms, drops it down. So anytime you want to add spacing, like if you had your kids writing poems and you wanted them to put things on different lines, a line break would be used. This is a big one. This is how you add pictures, images into your code. So we've got the image source, which is just saying where the image is coming from, and the alternate text. And the alternate text is what displays if the image doesn't load. There is no closing tag on this because the image is the content. So the picture is the thing. We don't need an open image, close image because no content would go between. Does that make sense? A lot of times students will try to close this. They'll try to put a close image tag. That's not going to work. And then the last one is an HR, a horizontal rule, which is just a horizontal line drawn across a page. All right, questions there. So we've got container tags, which have content, text inside them, and then we have our empty tags. Okay, and then this just talks about HTML elements, which is when you take the paragraph, or that you take the tags and you take the content and you put it together, it's called an element. Okay, so there's just one element in the code here to the left, right? Because you've got the paragraphs, which are the tags, and then the content. The content is what's going to be viewed by the visible from the browser, and then the closing tag is always here at the end. This is another common error, is students will put a backslash instead of a forward slash. A closing tag always has a forward slash. And again, I know I'm going through this really quickly. I'm just trying to give you a good overview. So when we start coding in a minute, you're going to be able to troubleshoot your code. All right. Comments are used within HTML, and they can be used for different things. They can, you can use them to leave notes for other coders. For you can have your students leave notes inside the comment. I would do that quite often. I'd ask them to code something and then in a comment tell me if they, had difficulty with something, or if they, if they had questions, or if they were okay. So I would have them leave it in a comment. The comments are green. They're going to come up green. And again, here's the not symbol, meaning this is not a regular HTML tag. The browser will not display a comment. All right. So here are our basic HTML tags. So they're not case sensitive, but it's best practice, except for doc type, which is our very first tag, to code in lowercase. Okay. This basic setup tells the browser which version of HTML is going to be used, where the HTML starts, and then it's divided into two parts, the head and the body. So the content that's in the head of the document is not shown to the viewer. The only thing that is or could be is the title, which would be the name on the browser tag. If you were looking in the browser, that little on the top where it says MadLearn or it says Chrome and lets you know what website you're on, that's what the title creates. But other than that, nothing that's in here is going to show on the page. Everything that's going to display in the web page is the body. Okay, it's going to be inside the open and closed body tags. So it's the doc type, the open HTML, the head, and then after that, now the browser knows that anything that's inside the body is going to be displayed. And then the last tag is always the close HTML, meaning this is the end of our HTML. So I'm going to, it just takes the students through this step by step. I'm going to move through this. So this is what I was just talking about with the title tag. Whatever you put in the title tag is what's going to show at the top in the browser tab. Okay. So this is what we're going to duplicate in just a second. I'm going to ask you to go to MadLearn. We're going to open an HCJ, a new HCJ builder screen, and we're going to code this page together. So if we were to interpret this real quickly, if we were to interpret this, this basically says, hello browser, just a heads up, we're going to create a page using HTML5. Here's where my HTML starts. We want the browser tab name displayed as my page. On the actual page, you're going to create a paragraph that says welcome to MadLearn, coding with MadLearn, and then the content will end after that. So that's almost like I just put that in there. Sometimes it's easier, not so overwhelming if it's translated into something a little more regular language sounding. So there are quick checks embedded within. So you can have them do this without, you can have the students do it without using the presentation or with the presentation, however you'd like to modify. But we're going to go to MadLearn. And we're going to create a new HTML document. So you're going to go to apps, create app. You can give your app a name. You can call it whatever you'd like to call it. That can be changed later on, so don't stress on it. I'm just going to call it my last name. And you can add collaborators. For right now, we're not going to do that. If you'd like your students to collaborate, they can. And then hit done. I know I just blew through that really quickly. Does anybody need help or not understand where we're at, or not stunned into silence, or is everybody okay?
Okay, I can tell you that.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's okay. I know that was a
Yes,
lot of talking
okay.
on my part. I was trying to give you an overview and we have such a short amount of time. I just wanted to make sure that you guys are okay.
We're good.
Okay. So once you're in your app, you're going to go to your build screen. And we're going to go to the HCJ builder. So we have to click add screen and then HCJ builder. And then we're going to give it a name. I'm just going to call this my web page. Oh, the other thing, absolutely, when you're coding in front of people, you will completely make mistakes all the time. I had students that would hand in things that had atrocious spelling, and as soon as I made a mistake when I was typing, they were on it. They were like, "You didn't spell that right." It was amazing. Okay, so we've got my web page, and I'm going to go ahead and save my screen. So I'm going to, let me see if I can make this. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger. And if you want to type along with me, or if you want to put the tags in on your own, you can, it's probably easier just to type along with me. So our first one is going to be our doc type declaration. So this is the only capital. So it's doc type HTML, which tells the browser that we're going to use HTML5. The next one is open HTML. So MadLearn automatically puts the close tag in. I know that needs to go at the bottom, so I'm going to enter a few times and put it at the bottom. Just as a point of reference, because this is a little bit different and it's not we're not building a website, we're actually building a mobile app website. Whatever we put in the title is not actually going to change. It's not going to show in the tab up here at the top because we're using the MadLearn website. So just know that the reason why I'm giving you this information, you can choose to not use that with your students, but if you're doing any kind of anything leading up to a certification exam or something like that, they're going to need to know these doc type, open HTML, the structural tags here. Again, if you're just doing this with fun for your kids, in MadLearn, these screens are linked and this is all set up behind the scenes, so you only need to worry about the content. Okay, so our next one is going to be, we're going to do our open head tag, and again, MadLearn puts in the close. So somebody besides Victor remember what goes inside the open head tag? It's going to be our title. Okay, and then on there you can call it whatever you'd like. Again, this is not going to render. If you were doing this on a to create a just a normal website, it would definitely display at the top, but it's not going to right now. I'm just going to call this my web page and leave it there. Okay, is everybody good so far? Just something to keep in mind as you're coding, these spaces that we're putting in between aren't going, and we'll see this in a minute. This is, the browser reads the tags. It doesn't matter whether it's space in between the tags or not. So the spacing is for you or for your students to keep it organized. So just know if we do this, if that helps you, you know, use the space in between to help keep your code separate. Okay. So next I'm going to put my body tag. Okay. And now I have my basic HTML structural tag. Like this is every single website that you look at has these basic, this basic structure to it. The thing that makes it look different is just what they put in it, what scripts run in it, and how it's styled. But every single website, if you do the inspect website and you start looking over on the side of the page, it gives you all the, you'll see the tags there, and you can even do that with your students if you like. If you click on a page and then you right click on the web page, and then you'll see all that code comes up, but you can start to identify that, oh yeah, there's a doc type there, or there's an open HTML, or there's, you know, here's the head, oh, there's the title. My kids used to like to play around and they would change the name and the title, and then it would change in the browser tab. It doesn't change it permanently, it only changes it in this instance, but they used to like to do that. Okay. All right, so for our next tag, we're gonna do paragraph. We're gonna do headings. So there are 6 sizes of headings. Let me go back to my presentation for just a second so you can see the difference here. Okay, we'll get to line breaks and stuff in a minute. Okay, sorry. Okay, so as I mentioned before, with your students, the browser only reads where the tags start and stop. So it doesn't matter if you code like this or if you code like this, the browser is going to display it exactly the same way. But if you look at this, it's a lot easier to know what's going on and where there could possibly be mistakes in the top version with the spacing in it than the bottom version, even though they display the same way. Okay, so paragraphs are open and close P. The browser will automatically add a line between paragraphs. And you can see whatever content is inside the paragraph is what is going to display on the screen. So this takes them through, we're just going to create a basic paragraph in just a couple of paragraphs in a second. There's a challenge on here. What if you enter 10 times between the first and second paragraph? What happens? Want to just hop back for a second to MadLearn. If we run this right now, it's not going to show anything. And the reason why is because we have no content in there. So actually, let's give it a paragraph. Let's just go ahead and do open paragraph. And I'm going to say, just you can add a sentence inside your paragraph, whatever you'd like to put in. We're glad. And then when I hit run and save, my paragraph pops up. Alexandra, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm loving this.
Okay. I'm sorry?
I said I'm loving this.
Oh, good.
I'm learning along with you all because I am not the coder on the team either.
And this is something else that I've done, as far as sometimes kids run into trouble, like trying to think of things, like you might be in this position right now, where you're kind of going, well, what can I write in my sentence? What can I write in my paragraph? Sometimes what I'll do is I'll give them text. I'll share a document with text, but have it like misspelled. So even though they're copying and pasting the text in, they have to go through and they have to correct the spelling just as a way to make it so they're not just copying and pasting. So they're actually looking at, you know, the spelling and what they're what they're doing. So now I've got 2 paragraphs in here. Okay, and again, the browser automatically puts a space between them. But let's put a title up here at the top. So headings start with H1, which is the largest. It goes at the top of the page, and then H6, which is the tiniest one. A lot of time that's used at the very bottom of the page. And there's a hierarchy to them. So an H1 heading shouldn't be used in the middle of a page if you want larger text. That's done, and changing, again, HTML is structure, CS is style. So if you want to style text and make it larger or larger than the header in the middle of the page, that should be done with CSS. The H1 should only ever be used at the top of the page. So let's go ahead and put an H1 heading in, and let's say, I'm just going to say, welcome to MadLearn. And when I run it, I've got my heading up there at the bottom, at the top, the bottom. Oof. I've got the heading at the top. If you want to see what an H2 looks like, you can copy and paste, change that to an H2, and then run it. And you can see it's just a bit smaller. And there are activities embedded within the slide deck where it has the students try to guess which size heading it is based on comparing it to the other size, like a visual comparison to the other size heading. There's different activities embedded within that, within the slide deck. Okay. And then, so another tag that the next tag that we discuss in the curriculum is a line break. So the line break is the one I showed you earlier. So we're glad you're here. If I wanted it to drop here to split onto the next line and say to code with us today, I could add a line break. So a line break is just a BR tag. It's just BR. It's an empty tag. It's got no closing tag because the break is the thing, the content. And when I run and save, it'll move it onto the line below. Now, I specifically concentrated only on HTML for level 1 because students want to style really quickly, but it's really important that they learn how the structure works. The reason being that sometimes with HTML, it can look right on the screen, but it's not actually structured properly, in which case the CSS won't work. So I really concentrate on just on the HTML in level 1 and then go into CSS and a little bit more advanced HTML in level 2. Is anybody having problems so far? Anybody need questions?
Yes, Caroline.
Charlie's note taker says it's leaving.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I just scheduled. I used the link to schedule a side meeting with you.
Perfect.
Because I think even level 1 is above my level of thinking. I am so at the beginning. It is just ridiculous. So
no.
Even this right here is above me.
I don't want you to feel like that. This is the first time you're seeing this, so there's so much. I will be glad to spend an hour with you, and I don't think it's above you. I don't. It's just please don't be overwhelmed by it.
No, I'm not feeling overwhelmed. I just and another thing, when I went to go to the MAD account that I just thought I created, but when I went to go follow you guys along, it was asking what type of plan I wanted. So I didn't even register on time. Like I'm not even up to par. So,
okay.
And I was just so far behind to catch up. So I didn't want to disrupt, but I'm still looking. I'm still trying to follow along, but I definitely will need a separate meeting.
No, and it's fine. It's a lot. Like this was a lot. I mean, this is something you would do with students over the course of a couple weeks, maybe. And this is a lot I just threw at you in a very short period of time. And I love that you created an appointment so that we can sit down and we can go through this, and it's slower. And if we need 2 appointments, you take 2 appointments. But you absolutely can do this. I promise you.
Okay.
I promise you.
I'm confident. I'm confident in you because you're good.
Thank you. You'll see as you start to go through it, and if you have a chance to look through the presentation, you'll see like, I really try to make it make sense in a way that, and again, I know this is a lot right now, but I'm hoping that like, once you start to look at the materials and see how it goes together, it'll start to make sense in a way that's not techie. That's more like, oh, okay, I understand why that is.
Yes.
But I'm really, 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 really happy you just made an appointment.
Yes, ma'am.
There is one, we've got 10 minutes. Okay, so there's another tag that we can add here, and that is it's called a horizontal rule. So this is an empty tag, meaning that it doesn't, again, have a close tag. And it just draws a horizontal line across the page. So if I just do open and close HR and I run it, now I've added a line across my page. So this is how my page is structured. Okay, I've got blocks of content. I've got a block of content here. I've got a block of content here. I've got my HR horizontal rule. I've got my second heading, and then I've got my paragraph. Okay. Because we have just a couple minutes, there's one more thing, and please don't feel overwhelmed. I just want to show you this for those of you guys that if you're able, if you're coding along with me, great. I just want to show you one more thing, and that's a hyperlink. So the web is completely, HTML was created around the idea that linking content is helpful, and we know that to be true, that there's links, that we deal with links all the time. So I'm going to code this. If you want to code along with me, it's the A tag, which stands for anchor. So what's going to happen is we're going to make MadLearn stand out, and that's going to be the link, but we're going to tell it where we want to go. So the anchor, it's href, hyperlink reference. One of the rules of HTML is anytime you have an equal sign, you have quotation marks after that. So we're going to put a quotation mark, and then let's have it go to madlearn.com. And then I need to make sure I close my quotation marks, and then I'm going to close my A tag. Now, if I run and save this, nothing is changed over here. Does anybody know why? My A tag needs to be, the close A tag needs to be on the other side of my text. So if I want MadLearn to be my link, then I need to have the close A tag on the other side of it. So now when I do that, now I've got MadLearn, and if I click on that, should. Let's see. Let's grab this. Maybe I didn't do something right with the link. There we are. There it is. Okay. So in this very, very, very short period of time, we have created an HTML document. We have given it a title. We've given it a, let me just go back for a second. We've given it a heading, we've given it paragraphs, we've given it a horizontal rule. This was a lot in a very, very short period of time. We've given it a second heading and another paragraph. So this is the coding piece of it. Again, if we were to, let me get out of here for a second. I'm going to save. Yep. You're going to notice if you didn't want to go through the basic tags that we just went through, let me see, page 2. If you didn't want to do that with your students and you just wanted them to code without, you would be able to just put the paragraph and the headings in. You would just be able to put the paragraph and the headings in without. Again, on MedLearn has that linked behind the scenes. It's just like I said, if you were teaching a certification, you would want them to know all the structural tags, but you could just have your students work without the structural tags and just have them do, and it will work just fine on MedLearn. Except you can't spell. Okay. That's where my students would have shouted out at me, "You spelled welcome wrong." So that is there. Again, Doreen, do you want to talk for I'm going to leave off here as far as the coding. To come back to level 2 next week, we're going to start to style some of this. So we'll be working with the CSS panel and we'll start adding some colors and some styles to the pages, and we'll talk about how those rules work. Does anyone have questions? Again, I know it was a lot. I know it was a real lot at one time.
Do you do anything with JavaScript?
I will in level 3. Yes.
Oh.
This is designed to take most people, if they're to the point where they're teaching JavaScript, this resource is more designed for as an introductory, maybe 5th grade through 9th, 10th grade. You've never coded before, and we'll take you through the steps of that. And like I said, I will add some JavaScript in level 3, but it's really more for the basics.
When is level 3?
Level 3 is probably about a month out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, there's like that. That's a work in progress right now. But at least we wanted to put this out just to get started with. Level 2 is even more. The level 2 curriculum is even more in depth. So there's. With that, there are HTML and CSS quizzes. Each of the levels has a culminating project at the end. And the last thing that I just wanted to leave with you with as well is that so many times I would be working with a curriculum, and you've probably run into this too, where you see something and you like it, but you just kind of need to tweak it to make it your own, but you can't do that without reinventing the wheel. So what I did is created all the resources in here. It'll force you to make a copy, and then you can tweak it to what you're doing. So if you wanted to add or remove content or change something around, you can click you can just copy and paste the link, and it will allow you to force a copy, and then you can just create it. If you don't want to add the basic tags in, it'll force you to make a copy, and then you do what you change it up the way you want to change it up.
Gotcha. I have one last question.
Sure.
Is computer science and computer programming similar? Like, is there a difference? Because my school named my course computer programming versus computer science.
Yeah. Programming is when you're actually, JavaScript is an example of a programming language that follows procedures. So HTML and CSS are not actually programming languages. JavaScript is. So I guess you could say that that computer programming is a component of computer science.
Okay.
That would probably be the best way to. That would probably be the best way to go ahead and to describe it. That it's a component of computer science.
Gotcha.
Victor's got it. So, Doreen, did you want to talk for a minute about internships?
Sure, Caroline. So Hi, everyone. For those who joined later, I'll just introduce myself again. My name is Doreen Frempomba, and I am Director of Internships at MadLearn. So I manage our internship program, and it's mainly for middle schoolers and high schoolers who have used MadLearn in some capacity. So after using MadLearn, your students are eligible to intern with us. And we would love to have some students of yours intern with us if they haven't already. We have students from all over the states who intern with us virtually, and they do real work. They get to experience what it is like to work in a global team, and experience what it is like to work virtually in a global team. So that's a little bit about our internship program. I'll put the link to more information about the internship program in the chat so you can read more about it. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Caroline, over to you again.
Okay, I just want to, again, we're here to support you, whether it's, how MadLearn works or with the coding. Alexandra and I are both here. We've got, our email addresses are here. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna. Okay, thank you, Alexandra. Alexandra just put the internship information in the chat. Our email addresses are here. You can also reach out to success@madlearn.com. And we will, like I said, we'll be glad to support you. If you have any suggestions, if there's something that you think that, needed to be added, or something else that you'd like to see in the materials, please, feel free. And Alexandra's got my calendar in the chat. But that's gonna, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. That's gonna wrap up our level 1. Yes, thank you very much for joining. If anybody wants to stay for a minute or has questions, I'll be happy to hang around. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Yes,
Yes,
thanks for
ma'am.
joining.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.